How you got to New York? How did that happen?
How did that happen? Well, this little piece you actually don't know. I had a friend and I was working in the office in the Netherlands. And a friend of mine, she was very much into acting and movies and all that stuff. And she's like, Soraya, I have this acting workshop that I want you to go with me because I don't want to go on my own. I was like, it's not for me. Can you not, it's okay to go on your own. It's, I don't need this. And she was like, no, but I really, I need you here. I was like, okay. So I went and I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I was like, it's so good, especially because I was working in the office and it was something creative. And it was also something that, it takes you on an inner journey as well. You learn a lot from it. So it expanded me in so many ways. So I was like, okay, cool. And then in between, I just got more passionate about it. And then I asked my manager back in the day, I was like, okay, I want to go a month to New York. There are some workshops I want to do. There are acting workshops. And so they granted that month and I went. And I was here and I went to do these workshops, and which for me was also an inner journey because I came out of a long-term relationship. Yeah. Which has given me so much. And in between, because I love to explore and travel, so in between those workshops, I was just walking around New York, having the best food spots, going to Central Park, having a little e-bike, having these little beautiful adventures in the city. And I got scouted on the streets.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I got scouted on the streets by one of the bookers. And I told them, like, listen, I'm, back in the day, what was I, 32? I'm super, you guys, in your viewing point, I'm very old, so I don't know where you want to put me. And they were like, no, we can put you at 25 or 35 because you don't look your age. And I was like, if you see it, by all means, I'm open to it. So I went to have a chat with the agency and we went for it. Although to work in New York, you need a work visa. To having a work visa, you need a portfolio to show your work. Didn't have that. So
didn't have shit.
No. So what did we do? Well, we head back to the Netherlands, head back to the office, and I made work out of that. So eventually I came across an agency in Belgium and they said, okay, you need to build up a portfolio. Let's take you to Cape Town, South Africa. And so I did. And also took the plunge of leaving the office. Because I was like, okay, that means I need to be there for a minimum of 3 months. So what happens with modeling, you need to be on stay. And on stay means you're not granted for any work. You go to castings, you make yourself seen, you do the test shoots, you don't get paid for it. You work with photographers and from there you build your portfolio and hopefully work comes out of that. So I took the plunge because I had nothing to lose. I broke up with my relationship. And then I wasn't happy at the office either. I was like, it's not for me. And when I got the chance, I was like, why not? Nothing. Yeah, I can just go for it. So I went to Cape Town and that's where it all started. Started the book portfolio, worked with amazing human beings, photographers, met beautiful people around me who were a little bit in the same realm and started to work. And I never felt more in tune.
Really?
Yeah, it was insane. All of a sudden, a new world opened up to me because I never knew. Yeah, for me, it was all new. Also, South Africa was very new to me. South Africa has a very special spiritual energy to it. So that also resonated. You got the mountain, you got the ocean in front of you, and then everything was just magical. It was like I was living in a fairy tale. And so I was like, okay, I want more of this. Sorry, language. And so I started working and then went back after the season, went back to Europe again. But you need more for a O1 visa. For a work visa here in America, you need a lot of paperwork to show. So that process took me before COVID. We were almost done, but then COVID hit. So I needed to wait for that. And then the visa got confirmed. Was it around end of 2022? Something like that. And then I arrived here, and have to prove yourself again. But also in that part, like I told you before, that I was very focused on family. Things were happening.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be there. And now I'm finally here and taking a full-time mojo in New York, which I'm loving every bit of it. But it took me a while to come back again and be here present.
Is Cape Town a common destination for the modeling world? Like, why go to Cape Town and not somewhere else?
Yes, it is very common. It's also very easy. I mean, if you look at the Netherlands, if you look at us, it's quite easy for us to get a work visa because the Dutchies, of course, got a background into South Africa.
Yeah.
So we do have a tendency to get there. And there's a lot of commercials going around there. Also, a lot of German and French productions, which are huge. When it's wintertime in Europe, it's summertime in South Africa. And it's also much more cheaper to do productions there. So there's a big influx of models coming in. And there's now even a bigger influx of Netflix series and all that stuff. Yeah, because that's also been shifting, like the actor world and all that. So no, it is. But it just depends on where you come from. For us, especially the Netherlands, it's a thing. For Americans, it can be, but there's not so many coming over this side. It's more like if you're here, because New York is a promised land almost, you know? Look at it that way. That's what they say.
The moment where someone saw you on the street, I'd love to hear that story. You're literally, are you like walking down Fifth Avenue and somebody like comes and taps you on the shoulder? Like what happened?
Yeah. It was a gay guy. And I was standing next to a stop sign. And then he was next to me. Hey, can I ask you something? I was like, yeah, sure. And then we started a conversation. I was like, okay. I was very surprised, I have to say. To be honest, when I was younger, when I was about 21, I did some little things. But again, I was also studying and afterwards in the office, and I had a long-term relationship.
Yep.
So my focus was not really there. I wanted to, but my relationship would not allow me to go long-term away. Also, it was my choice, you know, you choose things out of love. So I did little things in between while I was in the Netherlands, but not like big stuff. And then once I grew out of it, once you're older in your 20s, because you know that it has a certain age, you know, so I never thought about it. So for me, just walking around here, I was like surprised. I was like, yeah, you know my age? I don't know. It's people, you know. But nowadays, which I also love, is that the world is shifting into different forms. You got the plus size models, but you also got the 60 plus models, you know, as an age. And I love that, the queer things coming around. And I know many people, they love to see the supermodels. And I also love that little niche as well.
Yeah.
But I think there's beauty in everything. And to having a platform right now, to seeing all that instead of the picture perfect, I think that's it's a beautiful growth in this world. I love that.
You said when you got to South Africa, if I heard you correctly, there was like an alignment that you loved it. There was something that it just felt right.
Yeah.
What happened? What about it was enticing or just great for you?
Well, for me, it's the energy, it's the people, and I have to say it is a third world country. So there's
is that right?
Yeah. So it's a lot of poverty. And when I talk poverty, it's on the ground, people having nothing. And because of that, next to that, there's also a lot of richness. But there's this energetics that goes around there, that people that, for instance, have all that, they also give back. And they there's this knowledge about appreciating what you have, even the food on your plate. And if you have that food, you can share that with other people. So once you enter South Africa, I mean, again, this is my perception, you feel that resonance with each other, like taking care of one another. There's this circle of life that, you know, politics is happening. It's a big thing that a lot of things we're just putting inside their pockets, you know, while people not having food on their plate and other people trying to give while they can. And I think you don't see that here in the Western world. It's even when something happens on the corner of the street, people don't even look at it, you know, and they're like, okay, you do you. So it became so hardened. While there, if something happens around the corner, people help each other. That just from the get-go. And I think that is a resonance. And I think also we are nature. So it's about you coming, that you can ooze in. Like when you see like a mountain or the greens or the ocean, it's just something that you don't even need meditation. You're already in that space.
Yeah.
there's this pureness, this rawness about it. And it's just, I think it's a combination of both, about the culture, the people, and the place itself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel about Hawaii when I'm
Really?
there. It's just like, God, I'm just so grateful there are places that exist like that in the world because it's so amazingly beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you explain the helpfulness there? I don't know if you thought about it much, but the quickness for people to help out people when they're in need in South Africa. What did you make of that?
Instant. It's like something, what I make out of that is that you have conversations with people and you don't even have to do it big. For instance, I got a fixed place when I go there, and like the host, even he provides, like he has maybe, how do you call that, like a cleaning lady that comes in. She comes from the townships, but then he also, when he can, he provides. And if that person wants to, she even had a daughter and needed to go to high school, helps out. So those little things, and it doesn't need to be a show. It doesn't need to be like, look at me doing this big grand thing. It's about the little things that you help with one another because you can. And for me, that speaks volumes. It's like even if you go on the streets and you have an apple with you and you see someone who is in hunger on the corner, you give that apple. When you see those things around you, it just hits me right through the heart, because it is about community. And if you can give, why not? That is what I see.
The modeling itself, what about the act of doing it? I'd love to hear, I don't know anything about this world. So when you first started out, when you went down there, what were you doing? And what about the act of actually getting involved in this world was enjoyable for you or spoke to you or not?
I think
it must have been such a trip because you had lived a whole life without being in this world whatsoever.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think because of that, because I was living this life that I thought I wanted, which was more like the homey life and building together and, a little housey together, I never felt that sense of freedom. And all of a sudden, there was this new world opening where you meet everything, all types of people. You don't have a schedule. So they put you into castings. All of a sudden you've been booked for a TV commercial. All of a sudden I'm in the middle of the country having a TV commercial with some actor and I have to act like a mommy or act like I don't know. It just opened up. It's like a full adventure. Yeah. And I was hungry for adventure and freedom. And that it has given me. And I think it's because, again, I was living an adult life in my 20s, and all of it, I shifted that, the 20s and the 30s. Yeah. I just
that's a good way to put it
around. But there's a good thing about it because I'm more in tune with myself, with my values, so I don't go overboard on things. I'm enjoying the freedom to a certain extent, which is a good part. But I think that was the main thing. It has given me wings, and it has given me having the knowledge of meeting new people out of everywhere around the world and not knowing what the next day would bring, and me exploring South Africa and just everything that comes with, everything was full on adventure. I could just write books about stories. Every day was a new story. And, also starting dating, all that stuff. And that was also new to me, starting dating with other guys. I mean, you've been long-term 14 years also with someone. So that's a big shift. Yeah. And not wanting to have a relationship because by all means I wanted to be free. That's also, so there's a lot of also inner introspective things that was going around, but especially me being in that freedom, that modeling has given me. Yeah, just being curious about everything around it.
The work itself. So you were doing a combination of some acting along with modeling?
Yeah, that's how it started. Okay. And it's funny because that's how I got booked for my first TV commercial, because I was you needed to act a certain way or just be a mommy or anything like that, So I just could tune into that. I would not say easily, but, I had some workshops and it was like nice to do so. It felt like, it's like playful. Yes. So, it did, but I didn't grow into be an actress or anything like that. I just used it for the TV commercials it comes with. So there was no dialogue or anything. It was just more expressions that comes out. So that was the combination of things. And then the modeling itself, like in shoots and campaigns, it's more still. But what I love about that is that the connection and the creation, what you make with fellow models, stylists, and the photographer. That is a connection that I love. I love, especially when you speak the same language. It's like a dance. You enter together. And that is what gives me energy.
The shoots it's clothing, right? I mean, is that primarily what you're modeling, or what's the suite of things that you have modeled for?
Yeah, clothing, jewelry, skincare, hair products. It can be anything. Yeah, but one more. Cars, also big commercials into that, you know. But even medicine, I did once a medicine thing. I think it was Gaviscon. I think that was, I cannot say the name, sorry. Anyways, for bloated. Sorry.
And so the business of this world, so you get stopped on the street, you sign with an agency. What does that world look like in terms of how you find work and who's on your team in general when you're in this world?
Yeah, well, the world is shifting because you now have a lot of freelance models as well because of social media. Yeah. But looking into the agency part, so what they do, they sign you. And for instance, here in New York, I am exclusive, so I cannot take any other jobs outside of them. And if I, for instance, get an offer through social media, I need to pass it through them. So we signed that. And then from there, they got the clients, they got the castings. And that is actually your mother, as you would say, your mother agent. Yeah. And they're the ones in charge of you. That's why, for me, what I also needed to learn here in New York was to really, because I have a system where you put in the agenda when you're booked out or not. And usually I'm used to having personal contact and just tell the booker, hey, I'm doing this and this. I'm now going to Europe because I got a job there. But to really put it into the system, that was for me, like, Soraya, you really need to, because otherwise we got so many models. I was like, okay, need to work on that. Because I'm used to having that personal touch. But here in New York, they're also quite bigger. It's also per market, it's super different. It's very interesting to enter that as well, because here, where I'm at is quite a big agency. So
what is it? Are you allowed?
The name?
Yeah.
State management.
Okay. Okay.
So, and they're really professional. They're really good. They just need to put it into the system. Like for you, and especially me, because I'm in and out. So that doesn't make it easy for the bookers. They need to have it in the planner, you know? So I needed to learn all that, because the agencies that I'm used to work with, they work differently. But again, the Netherlands, for instance, is much more tinier, or South Africa. So I needed to get used to the way of how New York is bigger, bolder, and you have to adapt to that. So that was a good lesson also for me to get in tune with the market. And also the market, what is also funny about it, what I learned this year, the market itself is, I told you that before, right? In New York, here, everyone is a main character.
Yes.
And I'm not someone who, I don't scream, you know. For me, it's like, I'm just there. And I'm quite humble. I don't want to say that for myself, but it's true, you know. I do my work and I'm a professional. But, I need to step it up. It's like more, okay, no, you need to be beaming and shining that spotlight. Otherwise, you're going to be that wallflower, you know. And that's also another thing. That's like a mission for me, to be like, okay, Soraya, you need to step it up a little bit, you know, show yourself. It's okay to be seen. Well, in the Netherlands, for instance, you already be seen. Don't do already normal. You don't need to go a little bit overboard. And here you can just be a little bit more beaming up.
When you sign with an agency like that, is that typically a 1-year contract where you have an exclusive deal with them? And regardless of how long you sign with them, once that signature is on the dotted line, you have high confidence you're going to have work for a full year. There's enough work to go around if you sign with an agency like this?
It depends. It depends on your profile. For some people it is, for others it isn't. So the work visa itself is 3 years, and then it can be extended by a year. And it depends on how you worked so far and how it was. You just evaluate with each other. So there's always this communication with one another and transparency. If one of the two parties want to get away from it, we just make an agreement like amicable, and it's fine. But it usually starts with 3 years, and preferably, what I understand, it want you here minimum 6 months in one get-go. So not like what I did, in and out, because of also the personal situation, and because you need to build up a network, and people need to see you, as in casting directors, photographers, and they need to get to know you. So that it takes time. It takes time. But again, it depends on your profile. If there's, for instance, many like brunette, brown eyes, and there's many of them, it's like you going into the supermarket and you want tomatoes. Which one you're going to choose? Yeah. They can all be pretty, But then it's about the finesse, what you're looking for. And that can go quick, but it can also be taking longer. Yeah. So it just depends. And I think it does help when you're here for long term and make that connection.
This is a very simple question, but is this a lucrative world? I mean, I speak to a lot of people who are in arts in general. They're actors or actresses or whatever. Most people are struggling. Yeah. Is the world you're living in like that, or is with the agency you're signing with, once you're in, they're going to take care of you?
No, it really, again, it depends. So, okay, it depends on how you. I think US, again, every market is different. For me, I'm happy and I'm lucky. Also, I worked for it, I have to say, that I built a network in Europe. So I do got work there. That's why I go in and out, because that's helping me right now to pay the bills and to have constructive, structural income. Although, if I would just be here for the coming 6 months, I would be like, what? Excuse me? I need to work. What's been happening? Because again, it takes time, especially you as a newbie. I do see a lot of actors and models that I do know here struggling, and they all have a side job on it. Yeah, because again, it also depends on the agency, but it also depends on the model itself, because some are booking like full time and they're having a name, and some are not booking it at all, or maybe 3 times a year. And again, for me, to be honest with you, this week is going to be, first option. First option means you're probably going to get the gig, but they're waiting for, the last maybe 2-3 models who's going to get through. And this is going to be my first job coming Wednesday. Maybe it's going to be confirmed through them. But again, I got the other jobs that help me, which is from overseas. But if you really... if you have a life, you got a family, and you want to provide, there comes structure with that. And then it can be quite tricky and risky to really put all your bets on one horse. I think it's important then to have something on the side.
Yeah. And so when models sign with an agency like you did, is there typically like a bonus for signing that gives you some assurance of financial viability? Or is it really all, we'll see how this plays out? You're first on deck. Hopefully you're going to get some of these opportunities and you'll get some money.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the model. Some models are, for instance, fresh models, they're very young and then they invest. And then you're also in a model apartment and all that. But I'm older. I also want some form of comfort in how I live.
Yeah, for sure.
So like modeling agencies, when they have the model apartment, I prefer having my own space. So that means I'm investing into myself. So that means, no, they will not invest in me because I also have a certain way that I want. If I would ask pocket money or anything, I can. Yeah. But yeah, preferably you want to do it on your own. But again, it depends. Some girls are very young. Some girls are 20 and they come to this big bad city, and then, they do give pocket money. But what happens there, it goes into your portfolio and portefeuille. And then from there, once you work, they deduct it. So that's how they usually do it. And also with the model apartments for some girls, so they invest in a model apartment. But also that is not ideal. Sometimes in a model apartment, you're with 20 beds inside that house, But so they can. It just depends on what they see in you, how they can invest in you.
The stories you've heard, because I'm sure you've talked with many of the people that you've worked with, how do most people end up in this world in the first place? Is it typically what happened to you, some serendipitous meeting on the street in some random town where somebody taps you on the shoulder and leads your life in a completely different direction? Or are most people striving for this from an early age, like you would strive to get into a college? How does that story usually unfold?
I think nowadays it's a 50-50. You hear a lot of them being scouted, but I think social media is also a big part of it right now, that people take matter into their own hands.
Yeah.
And because of that, they will be seen and then get a DM or an email, or you go to casting calls. So they want it so much, and then there's a casting call. You go to an agency, which they have an open hour that you can present yourself, and you get signed into that. Or even competitions. Sometimes there's also competitions going around. Like back in the day, it used to be Elite Model Look, but that was way back.
What was it called?
The Elite Model Look, like elite models.
Okay.
It's quite big, well, in Europe. And then you do like a little competition, and then from there you get to be seen. Even the Americans Next Top Model, I think that's...
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, that was a thing to enter. Now it's already saturated, but that was also one of the ways. But I think social media is a bigger part now, that you can let yourself be seen and create, and then all of a sudden agencies are seeing you. Because at the end of the day, it's about making money, right? It's about marketing and market something out there that you can actually sell. And if you do that through social media, it can be quite interesting also for an agency to see in that.
What is the best way for a young woman that is interested in this, or a young man who is interested in this life, to proactively try to give themselves the best odds of being notified online? I mean, it sounds like you have a different route to this world, but what typically, outside of being very beautiful, like what are the successful strategies that you've noticed work on Instagram or whatever platforms people are using to get a career?
I think, to be honest with you, if you have good natural photos, instead of going on social media and having the perfect pictures, what agencies are really looking for is one, character. So like a certain charisma that you carry around, especially nowadays, instead of just only being pretty. Yeah. But also, of course, having that special feature, that special face that you don't see anywhere. And if you have these natural pictures, just you in natural light, and sending that to the agency, because usually they have on the website of the agency, you can just fill out your blanks and what they're looking for. You're in a specific age range and measurements. That's also a big thing. If you're into that and you have this different way of you being, they can invite you already for an interview and you're already in. I think, especially nowadays, to put yourself a little bit more different than the rest is having that character that comes with, and not just only that pretty face, you know? So something to offer that you can also be in that.
Character meaning charisma, or character meaning personality?
Personality, charisma. Yeah, something that differentiates you, that actually makes you you, and also nice to work with, that comes with. Yeah. And of course, the face is still a thing. It still needs to be pleasant to look at. But again, I think the world is changing, because sometimes I also see like quirkiness coming out, which also has beauty into it. But that's, again, how I see the world. But that's also, there's actually an agency in the Netherlands, I don't know what the name is no more, but they only hire the weird looking, you know, a little bit outside the box, which are also booked for Adidas or anything because that's nowadays, it's also a thing. But I think as an aspiring model and you're young, I think the best way to go to is having your natural pictures and having the measurements right, you know, and send them out on the website of the agency itself. And do your research on the agency. There's so many out there right now that is not legit. I think an agency always wants to invest in you. So especially if you're younger, have that test shoot with a photographer, you know, they're guiding you, they're protecting you, and always keeping an eye out. So
those agencies, and again, knowing nothing about this world, what are the ones you trust? Like, what are the top agencies you would recommend to a friend who is interested in getting into this world?
Yeah, it depends, again, which market we're speaking of. But for instance, like here, state, definitely. Here it is also, I need to look into it. Yeah, I know the Netherlands out my heart. There are a few. I can send it to you.
Ford Models, is that one? I don't know what the ranking...
Yeah, I need to check. In New York, it's a different ballgame because I haven't researched that. For me, it was state and I always stayed with states. So I never researched that for myself. I do know the Netherlands. I can tell about the Netherlands, but I can send it to you.
Sure.
Maybe it's nicer for you to put it out there, because I do think it's important.
Yeah.
And sometimes it also shifts, because sometimes things happen in between an agency, and also the Me Too things that were happening a few years ago. It's also real.
Tell me about an average day on a shoot. You get booked for something and you're modeling clothes or whatever. Is that typically like a grueling 3-day sprint? I'm sure it depends, but like in general, what should someone expect who gets that opportunity and shows up for a few days of work?
Yeah. No, again, it depends on, you have different types of models. You got the commercial, you got the fashion, you got even like sport models, hand models, feet. So for me, what I do more is commercial, and sometimes fashion comes in between, and then it's a 1-day campaign. You shoot, you have a storyline that you're making, and sometimes it's outside, sometimes it's in the studio. Then there's also what you say, if you have like 3 days in a row, it can also be e-com. So e-commerce, I don't do that. I have done it once. I think it was in Germany. They do a lot there. And e-com is like you get 3 days, and the only thing that you see is in studio. And that's the models that you see on the website, showing the front, the back, the side of the fashion gear that you have, the sports gear that you're wearing, or anything. So it's more about selling it and seeing the garments in perfect in order to sell, instead of giving it a storyline. And that can be, then you got 20-25 outfits per day. But it's just back to back, shooting.
You're grinding.
And for everyone, I mean, it's good when you have it's great when you have a good team, because we're all in this together, and that's the energy that I'm talking about. I think that keeps you alive. But it's like, it's you're in a factory almost. Well, for me, I lose my soul a little bit. I'm sorry. I cannot. So then it's about, you take energy out of the team. It's the same as in, for instance, you're working in the office, and the office job is already routine work. You're not really enjoying it, but your colleagues are keeping you alive. That's a big thing. And that's also in those type of jobs with e-com, for instance. It keeps you alive in that matter. But like a normal day-to-day, when if I have that campaign shoot, you just get energy out of that. The last campaign that I also shot was in the Netherlands, and it was such good weather. We did it at a pool, like a little villa, and we were just 3 of us. So the stylist, the photographer, and I, but we really clicked, also in personality. And it was just having fun with the girls and just being creative and coming up with shots that worked with the mood board of the client. And that's just passion that comes out, because then you're creating, and there's space of creation outside of the mood board a little bit. You have a little bit of freedom, which is really nice. It gives you that that creation part is that comes out also in my social media, is that also keeps me a little bit sane in this world. Yeah, it gives out a little, how do I put this? You can add a little passion to it, instead of, because they put you in a bracket, right? So what happens there as a model, you're like, for instance, me, I'm in my 40s, brunette. This is usually you're the mommy, or usually you're a young professional, and they put you in a certain bracket. So there's no outside of the box thinking. And for instance, in these kinds of campaigns that you have this freedom, you can go a little bit overboard. Or even me with social media, I sometimes have my own clients in Europe, and then I just come up with my own things, and I love that, and then I can just go all out and maybe be sexy, or be more different, or, having, be more Soraya, actually, instead of just someone putting me in a bracket, which actually pays the bill. So I'm very happy with that. But I love the balance of things.
of all those different areas of modeling you were mentioning, is there one in general that's the most lucrative, that people typically in your world are trying to get to because it pays better on average? Or is that not really something that's clearly identified?
No, it is. And that's TV commercials.
Oh, okay.
Like big commercials, you can come, I mean, it depends on what and where, but some people pay 125,000, some 15, 20K euros, and you work 2 days. And you get that back. And usually once also that happens, and there's also a buyout involved. And once that buyout gets renewed, you get again money, which is like passive income coming in after a few years again. And that can be really nice. Yeah.
Is everyone vying for those positions, given how much money that is? Like in any other marketplace, people know when the major companies are trying to make commercials and are paying that level.
Yeah.
Are people bidding for that, or your agencies are bidding on your behalf? Typically?
Yeah, typically, yeah. So for instance, if you look at South Africa, so they know what kind of productions comes in. And there's also certain platforms where casting directors are at, where castings are being published. And then the agency is proactively looking into that. And then from there, they send out the models that they have. And of course, it depends on us models if we want to attend or not. So we say yes or no to the castings. But yes, they're definitely looking into that. And then from there, they send it on.
I wonder if there's space to talk about some parts of this. I was thinking as you were giving a description of how much it seems like you've really loved the people you've worked with in general. Would you recommend this world to friends of yours, to a daughter you had later in life, hypothetically, who was interested in getting in this world? Most people, I would think, will never dip a toe into these waters. We'll really never have any understanding of what the ins and the good and the bad that you've probably seen in the years working in this industry.
Yeah.
On balance, would you recommend the field to a close friend or a family member?
I think it depends on the character of a close friend or family member. If it's my daughter and she's very young, I say no. Because why? I think you really have to have a thick skin. And you have to have a certain foundation already as a character. Like I spoke about it before, having a certain backbone, knowing your values and sticking to that. If you are very much going with the wind, or you're very much young, you're adolescents, it's a very striking environment to be in that can lure you in with a lot of glitter and gold. And in the end of the day, it's not. So, because you get to deal with also people that want something different out of you, especially as a beautiful woman or even men. You know, it happens. Or they have a certain position that they're quite influence, and they're quite a big influence, and then they know their power and they misuse it, and then it's important just to know not to go overboard with your values and tainting that eventually, because you can really harm yourself in that matter, let alone also getting into parties and where things are just out there to grabs. And just know that you really have to know yourself and have a thick skin and know what you do it for and why. Because otherwise it's very tempting, and you can get sucked into this popularity game, which doesn't make you. And I think that can be quite dangerous, because eventually it will be like a bubble that's going to be bursted.
In your mind, what would be the minimum age required? And obviously people mature at different pace in life, a different pace in life. But in general, what do you think should be the legal limit?
Yeah, but I'm really strict in this. I'm so strict. This is so bad. I to be honest with you, it's so bad what I'm saying, because it's like what you say also. It depends in general also on the growth of people, because some are already more mature at a younger age. But I would say maybe 25. But again, I'm very strict. So maybe my barrier is not good too. Because I just think, because you're exposed to a lot. You're exposed to, I think sexual stuff even in a way. For instance, you're on a shoot and it becomes a beauty shoot, but then you have to have a no bra, and how you're going to deal with that. And so you have to be comfortable and or not, maybe it's not for you. And you really have to stick up for yourself in that matter. And it's not, some things are not normal and should not be like that. You really have to know what's right and what's not right in that world, even if they promise you the gold, So it's not a perfect world.
What, if you're comfortable talking about it, I mean, the people that you've met who have entered at 16, 18 years old, 20 years old, obviously I don't think everyone has traumatic experience probably, but I have no idea. What are the common traps, the misaligned incentives, the threats the bad stories you've heard? Is it primarily sexual?
Yeah.
What's worth keeping in? If somebody listens to this and is considering this, like, what's worth keeping in mind?
Yeah. Worth keeping in mind is that some, don't have the right intentions, and it's not only about work, but it's sometimes also getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this can be sexually. Yeah, definitely. I heard. I'm gonna knock it off on word because I don't have a personal story in this, but I did hear stories in order to get into a certain big magazine and have this with this photographer. Let's have a little job because I can make you, I can make you this big. Yeah. And then, till how far are you going to take that, right?
Is that an explicit conversation that occurs? Like those moments, everybody has heard about the Harvey Weinstein story, which I think is probably like the first thing that will come to mind with people, but what that arrangement, is that like a wink understanding that typically happens between men of power and beautiful young women who want to get into a magazine? Or is it more, let's go on a walk and it's overtly named? I'm sure it's different for different situations, but typically what happens?
Yeah, again, this is a story. Well, not only one. I heard multiple stories in this, that indeed you go to a certain costume or go to even in a hotel room and then you meet the certain photographer and then they can make your name big and all that. And then it's about, okay, now I'm going to shoot you and put little clothes off. And then from one leads to another, or some are just not into, and they leave, running or, I think as a wink, I don't think it should, but again, these are my values. I'm quite hard-headed in this stuff because I don't think this should be happening. But how ugly it is, it's not only in this world. It's the more I get to know other hierarchies in this world.
For sure.
It's almost like the language that it's been speaking of. So I'm very, like I said, very hardcore. So for me, it's about, it should not be that reasoning. I think it's very low blow if you enter that. If you try to misuse that power, for me, it shows character that you don't want to enter. So that's why I'm saying people should be wary and careful with it. And then some people see it as an easy access and they don't care and they do it. Which, by all means, I don't judge you, but I don't think. I don't know. I think I'm a woman of pride. So I think if you go there through hard work, again, the turtle power that I was talking to you about, and maybe it's the slower path, but that's actually how you deserve it. And how beautiful is it when you do get there and you did it with your values. And that's why I say if it's too young and you're entering that world and you're very bleu, you're very naive. Yeah. And you almost feel excused that you have to do it. It can happen when you're really young, all of a sudden you're tainting yourself. And I think that's the worst. That's why if I had a daughter, I would be like, no, not too young.
You said you entered this world at 32. Is that right?
Yeah. Like full-time modeling. Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this or thought a lot about this, but the difference in, I don't know what percentage of models enter this world in their early 30s. It's probably low, like less than 10% maybe. I could be wrong about that, but I imagine it's the minority. What have you noticed at all between the difference between models that enter later in their life than younger? If you've noticed any patterns, I'd love to hear about that if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we've been speaking of. What I see is that, again, we cannot generalize everything because, again, it depends on the growth because some models are very mature for their age when they're 21, for instance. Yeah. So, and then they also lead by their values and super beautiful to see. But I do believe there's a difference once you're older, you don't... people don't make you crazy with the mountains that they promise you, so it's more like, okay, we enter this. And also it can be, you hear a lot of no's with the casting. So it can also take a dent into your security, like your secure self. Yeah. And once you're older, you already know your values into that. So of course it's a bummer when you don't get it, but life goes on and you go further with it. Once you're younger, it can really make or break you. And that's what I noticed with the younger age models is that I've seen it from close by, is that one casting, when you really hoped for that casting and that money coming in, because again, sometimes it's not that lucrative and you go with ups and downs.
Yeah.
And you're really hoping for that money coming in and having that casting, so you do your best, but then you don't get it. Their day is just done. They're sad, the emotion kicks in, it eats on their secure self, and all of a sudden it can be spiraling down, and it can actually eat you up alive, and even your mental health can go down if you're not that secure. And I think when you're young, again, it's about the foundation that you have. If you're older, you have this thick skin already. You can enter that, you go with it, and it doesn't make or break you. I think there's a big difference.
You talked earlier about how thick skin is important in this world. What are the other qualities that matter outside of the natural beauty component? Like what personality qualities do you typically notice in women and men, I guess, as well, who succeed in this world?
Yeah, I think discipline, professionalism, also, be on time into things, communicate, know like social cues when you enter a shoot, you're there to work. Don't be there looking like you don't feel like it, or just chewing your gum, or just always on your phone. Just, you're in a team, so you're going to work as a team and be proactive with it. I think that's very important. Disciplined as in stay healthy, be healthy, work on yourself, not only on the outside, but also from the inside. Again, that's also working on your thicker skin and taking care of that, and also, I think, because it can also be that sometimes you're not working and know how to cope with that, or even looking into reality, what makes you happy outside of that. Look at things that you want to grow more, because this world also gives you a lot of freedom. It can give you a paycheck, but because of that freedom, you can actually maybe do another study or maybe a job on the side that evolves you intellectually, what you like. No, don't stop your growth just because this is the only path. I believe there's multiple paths you can have in your lifetime, also simultaneously. And I get that, are very much focused on one goal, which is super beautiful. But if things stagnate or be silent, don't stop with your own growth. There's a lot more out of that. And I think that also makes you, to keep on evolving next to it.
Is your favorite thing about this line of work still the adventure, the newness, the novelty, the freedom? What are you still loving about doing it?
It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly the growth that I've been having from the past 2 years, is that it didn't eventually, because eventually I was doing Europe and South Africa.
It's a lot.
And it was the same eventually. And coming here to New York, it is a new adventure. Although I am older, so I need other stuff. It's like a natural evolution that's been happening. So for me, I actually entered a different study, because I studied tourism before. And 2023, when I was here, I wanted to do a study in between, which was UI UX design. Totally different, but I thought it was super interesting until this day. Also because the world was changing. Again, was for me my own little mission. Yeah. And there's a lot of interest that I have in between, and what for me the most thing is the adventure part. The adventure part, I will always be a little travel bug, but I now feel like I want to build a home, and building that home comes more structure, and with structure it also comes with another type of responsibility, but also another life that I want to build for myself, which means modeling. I mean, it's super beautiful and it is a job, and I love it until this day. But instead of me always going back and forth and travel so much, I want to do that less and be more in control. But that's my inner compass, and that's my journey. So the life I have is still adventurous, but I'm building to have it less adventurous and more structurized. But that is the stage that I'm in,
Or maybe a different kind of adventure. It's a different pacing.
Well said. Yeah, exactly.
How do you think about the future for yourself? Like, how do you, and I love to ask guests this in general, but when you think of success for you, and we just talked about you being in New York, and this may be being a part of your next phase. How do you think about the next year or two, or even beyond there, and what a successful career looks like. And maybe it's already the one you're living, but I'd love to hear how you're thinking about that word.
Yeah, because it is very personal, to each his own. Everyone has their own definition of success, right? For me, success in the coming 2 years would be being more in control of my own freedom, although I do believe I already have a lot of freedom that comes with. But if I can, it doesn't even have to be UI, UX designing. I find the digital world right now very interesting, even marketing. There's a lot of things that I would like to develop as in knowledge. So I'm actually trying to build into that a little bit more and see if I can have that as, it starts with a sidekick, but it will be a soft launch into the next chapter in life. And the modeling part, by all means, it will always be a gift, and I would love it. Again, if it would be 60 plus, I'm there, but I don't want to be lived by because I need that other paycheck,
Is it your hope that you can continue to do that for the foreseeable future? Would you like to, in an ideal world, continue to do modeling into your, 50s and 60s?
It's a tough question because I don't know if I'm going to be fed up with it. Because, again, 2 years ago, all of a sudden I was not feeling it no more. I was not feeling that essence, and I was surprised by it. But again, everything has its lifespan. Is it my hope? I'm a true believer in what feels right at that moment or not. If it would feel right now, for me, New York, it's given me a lot of challenges, which I love. So for me, it is like a new adventure, and I'm loving to take that challenge because it also challenged me personally. Like I said, everyone being a main character, so it puts me up in a certain, okay, Soraya, pull it up. Why are you not functioning like this? So it's a good thing. But yeah, maybe in a year's time, I'm ready for the next thing, So there's no hope. There's more of a peace in whatever will be is. But I do like I do like the world, and I love to inspire the inspiring models, and also I met, even till this day, young models that come up to me and asking for advice, and maybe they don't have that at home that they can understand, and having this safe space. And I love that part too of the business, I think there's beauty in there in passing on the torch for sure. At the same time. So, but for me, the most important for me coming years is building my own structure, my own life, my own peace, I would say. Yeah.
This is a good segue into the last question I wanted to ask you, which is, I always ask for advice you would give to younger people who want to have the life or the career that you do. You were just talking about how meaningful that can be to give advice to younger models who are coming up and asking you for it. But we covered some of this ground during the conversation, but what are the key pieces of advice that you would give, or have you given, that you think really matter for people entering this world for the first time, that are coming to you for that knowledge and wisdom? What should they know?
That no for an answer. Don't take it personally. I think that's most important. And also to whatever they ask of you, because sometimes measurements and all that stuff, I see girls not eating. I see girls losing their menstruation, that it just goes overboard, that some things are not worth it, especially when it's involved with your health, or let alone when we talked about the boundaries of itself. So I think that's very important, to really stay close to yourself and don't let it, you are the leader in that matter and not the other way around. And of course, you're collaborating, you have an agency, and a good agency, it takes care of you. So it's a give and take. You're a team together, and it should feel like that. And from there, it's about the growth, but by all means, never, trust your intuition. If something is off, it's definitely off. And people should be lucky to have you, instead of the other way around, that you should be fighting for the attention or anything like that. Know your worth in that.
Maybe if I can sneak one final question in as well. For women that don't have someone they can go to for counsel, or that I don't know if there's like a whistleblower organization in your world, but what's the best way to incentivize good behavior in that world? And maybe there is an organization that women can go to, or even men can go to when necessary. what advice in that world would you give to people that their intuition is off, or they've experienced something that is really troubling them? What's the best way to deal with a situation like that in your mind?
Usually, and it should be your booker should be your best friend.
Okay.
And also someone you can talk to if something is happening. Because again, you're a team together. So that agency and usually your booker knows everything. And then from there, there should be a safe space. If not, there should be a question mark already. And it can also happen in that matter that maybe that name has come up multiple times. And then from there, you can already expand into something else,
So having a team, having people who have your back, obviously.
Yeah. Or like I said, like for me, I get the youngsters also in front of me. I'm there, you've been passing through it. There's always a way to have a little soundboard into that. But I think the booker is the most important because sometimes if you're already into the scene and it happens multiple times, maybe with other models, we can put someone in the spot. What is necessary for not them doing it again.
Yeah. Soraya, thanks for doing this. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you too.